Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Soldiers to Sidelines webinar, Coaching Legends and American Heroes. And tonight we have two incredible leaders, one in basketball, one in the military, and we are going to discuss their secrets to leadership success. And if anyone is with us right now and knows what that song was that we came out to, please put it in the chat. I mean, this is the Hail Mary of all Hail Marys, if anybody knows what that song was. So I'm going to give it a couple seconds. Probably no takers. But Coach Kerns, what was that song?
That was our Appalachian State school fight song.
There it is. Go Apps. And with us tonight, appropriately, is Coach Dustin Kerns, who is the head men's basketball coach for Appalachian State University. Coach took over the Mountaineers in 2019 after a successful career as the head men's basketball coach at Presbyterian. He led the Blue Hose basketball team to its first winning season ever as a Division I basketball program. So his success elevating the Presbyterian basketball team paved the way for Coach to have the same immediate success at App State. In his first season at the helm of the Mountaineers, Kerns led App State to its best season in a decade. The Black and Gold posted its most wins, 18, since 2009 to 2010 season, and then the most Sun Belt wins ever in 11. And I'm just saying it's coincidental that App State's Black and Gold, and so are the Black and Gold Knights of West Point, which is representative as of our other esteemed leader. So then in the 2021 season, Kerns led App State to a 17-12 record, culminating with the program's first ever Sun Belt tournament title and first ever NCAA tournament appearance since 2001. So last season, Coach Kerns led the Mountaineers to a record of 19-15, and his leadership success is destined to have many, many more successful seasons. And without further ado, I want to welcome Coach Dustin Kerns.
Thanks, Harrison. I am honored to be here. I think that, first of all, I want to, say thanks to all the military, people and your service. I think that that's the ultimate leadership. And I think that leadership is ongoing learning. And so I commend all you all being here to be ongoing learners.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach. Also with us tonight, sporting the black and gold, is retired Major General Tim McGuire. General McGuire, U.S. Army retired, graduated the U.S. Military Academy at West Point in 1987, where he competed on the football team and graduated in the top 10% of his class. He went on to serve 34 years in the U.S. Army. His education endured, earning a master's degree in international relations from the University of Chile as an Olmsted Scholar, and he also had a second master's degree in national security and strategic studies from the Naval War College. McGuire proved his leadership as an airborne ranger who commanded the, quote, Red Devils of the 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment at the Pakatika province in Afghanistan, and later the 3rd Brigade Combat Team of the 82nd Airborne Division in Iraq. His leadership prowess earned him the opportunity to serve as the Deputy Commanding General of the United States Army in Europe. Ultimately, Major General Tim McGuire rose to Commanding General of the United States Army Installation Management Command. Please welcome Tim McGuire.
Hey, thanks, Harrison. It is fantastic to see everybody up on the net, and Bill Lynch, great to see you. You don't look a day older than when we were at West Point together. To all the soldier coaches out there, I just want to thank you all for your ability, your willingness to continue to serve and coach, teach, and mentor all the athletes out there, and to Coach Kerns. It's awesome to share this platform with you tonight, and I'm truly excited about what you're going to be doing this weekend at Bragg, because it just speaks to the power of Soldiers to Sidelines. So look forward to the discussion tonight. Thanks.
Thanks, General. And we're going to start with the first question to you. This is going to be a real good, feel-good question. Who are some of the best coaches and leaders that you ever had over the course of your 34-year military career, your football playing career at West Point, all your athletic success in high school? Who are the folks that you've always had in mind that inspired you to just keep persevering and enduring?
Yeah, a great question, Harrison. And I truly have been blessed. And I will start off at high school. got to play for Bob Laddiser, who I hope some of you know. If you don't, all the coaches out there, I'd encourage you to Google Bob Laddiser, because he came into a high school, De La Salle High School, Concord, California, that had never had a winning season. And by my senior year, came in with my freshman class. But by my senior year, we went 12-0. When he retired, his record was 399, 25-3, of which he had a 151 game win streak. But what made Coach Laddiser phenomenal was the importance of setting a vision and having a culture that supports that vision. And it was all about commitment. It was about work ethic, and it was about the team. But when the game stands tall, and also what is a Spartan, if you Google it, great insights into just the impact that coach can have on setting a tradition of excellence. And then Will Huff, Bill Lynch, and some others on here. We had the opportunity to play for Jim Young at Army. And Jim Young came in after a decade of losing at West Point, came in, was going to turn the program around. And I'll tell you, our first year, my freshman year, we went 2-9. But the next year we went to, ended up beating Michigan State in the Cherry Bowl to finish in the top 25. And so went from 2-9 to 8-3-1. And Michigan State's defensive coordinator at that time was Nick Saban. But it is one on, everybody credits Jim Young we changed to the wishbone. And that was important. But first and foremost, it was the emphasis he put on leadership and watching the senior class step up and lead from the front and change the culture. And I think the reason we went 2-9 the first year was Jim Young said, hey, at a military academy, leadership's going to take care of itself. And after, the culture wasn't right. And so after that 2-9 season, while we switched to the wishbone, the most important thing he did was empower the rising seniors to own that team and set and enforce standards and really change the culture. And so that was just powerful to see. And that's been, continued for decades now with players like Rob Dickerson, Will Huff, Bill Lynch, and also with Greg Gadsden, who are on this call right now. And then the other leaders I will say are some phenomenal non-commissioned officers that I have served with throughout, who once again, the importance of setting and enforcing standards. And that's one here where that's why I'm so proud to be affiliated with Soldiers To Sidelines, because the transition, what soldier coaches have learned in the military is so applicable to coaching. And then the fourth one I will pick, and just a quick shout out, everybody on this net knows of Coach K, but it's one here where it works the other way around also. And that's why I'll stop talking to hear Coach Kerns talk. But just with Coach K, when I was transitioned from being a colonel to a new one-star, the Army runs a program to help new general officers figure out, hey, what's changed? And every course they bring in Coach K to talk through leadership. And so that's where, once again, the Soldiers To Sidelines is great to see, because it is so much synergy between the military and coaching. So those individuals are really I'm blessed that they were part of my life. Thanks, Harrison.
Thank you, General. Let's back brief on those names. So it was Coach Jim Young, right? Coach K, Bob Louderser. Who else am I forgetting in that story, if any?
Well, the other ones would be great non-commissioned officers like Command Sergeant Major Steve England, Command Sergeant Major Earl Rice, and just a litany of great NCOs that throughout the years have not only touched me, but all the soldiers that they were coach, teaching, and mentoring.
Awesome. So the same question goes to you, Coach Kerns. With all of your success and your knack of turning teams around, who were your inspirations growing up? And why did you decide to get into coaching basketball? Was there someone that you looked up to and was like, yeah, I want to be like that guy?
First off, I want to say, my dad was drafted and served in Vietnam in the 25th Infantry Division. And so, the military has always been just such a huge, held to a high standard in our family. As a young kid, coaches had a great influence on me. And so certainly as someone that, trying to figure out what they want to do in life, I just felt like that, I wanted to coach. When to coach basketball is certainly it's a labor of love. It's a passion. My high school coach was a mentor of mine, Kerry Daniels. And then just in coaching, I've had several mentors along the way. Mike Young at Virginia Tech, I spent 7 years with. I've been to De La Salle High School, General McGuire, and so that's a pretty powerful program now out in Concord. And then I just, whether it's reading a book, whether it's just listen to podcasts. I think that's the beauty of it. You can kind of take bits and pieces from a lot of people. I've had a lot of mentors. I've worked for several coaches, several great coaches, quality people. And so, certainly there's a lot, but Mike Young, the head coach of Virginia Tech, I spent 7 years with, has been certainly been a major influence and a mentor, but several other people, my dad, certainly, reading leadership books. I just think that's the beauty of it. There's always certain things to beg, borrow, and steal from others.
Wonderful answer. I hear your father and your high school basketball coach were huge influences early on. And with that, was there ever like a specific moment where you realized I absolutely want to coach basketball at the highest level?
You know what, Harrison, I originally wanted to coach high school ball, and then I did my student teaching, and I realized I didn't want to. I really wanted to try to coach college ball, and in college I worked for, the team as a student assistant for Larry Scheit, certainly a big mentor of mine, former NBA coach and ACC coach. But I originally just wanted to teach and coach and just kind of gravitated, inadvertently, kind of organically to college. And then here I am. I think it's year 21 in college basketball.
And what's you're getting a reputation that I read about, Coach Kerns, and your ability to develop players. And before we talk about how you're doing that, I want to first spin it over to General McGuire. And I would love to hear if you have any nuggets, how you developed leaders underneath you throughout your 34-year career, how you developed the future NCOs, and your, let's call it, coaching tree within the military.
Yeah, Harrison, it is one on that's where any organization, it's all about the folks who are coming into following our footsteps. So it is one need on the emphasis the military places on coaching, teaching, mentoring those that are coming up. Some of it is having the structured performance rules, but it's more taking the time to have those discussions. And it's one on praise in public, your critique in private type, but you need to invest in those folks there. So it's one on throughout is training and the importance. And Coach mentioned it. Some of it is self-study, and so the true professionals are doing the reading, taking advantage of the seminars and other things to grow. But it is one on making sure folks, one, know their potential, two, are afforded the opportunities to be broadened, be challenged. And so it's one where I was blessed, where I had several assignments at our Joint Readiness Training Center in Fort Polk, Louisiana. And we've got the soldiers up on the net right now know what I'm talking about, but our combat training centers are trying to replicate combat, and 10 times a year they turn it into so you want your worst day to be in peacetime, so you learn, so you're challenged, so you're pushed past your comfort zone, and you're forced to deal with that adversity. And that's one there where I do, one of the sayings we had, the more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war. It is one where you've got to, I'm a football player, so you got to hit the sled. I know basketball, you've got the drills, but it's one here where one is the importance of hard, rigorous training. But it's also one is before you go into that training, actually preparing for it. And part of that is training and certifying your leaders. And so it's one here where I'm looking at now from a coaching standpoint. It's not enough just to practice. There's a heck of a lot that goes into laying out that practice. It's the same as how we train in the military. And so the 8-step training model was one where you would put a lot more emphasis in on before you go out and do that training event. How do you make sure everybody understands what is required, why we're doing this, and the how, so they can actually perform? But then repetition, and I do believe 2 ways we learn as adults: scar tissue and repetition. And so the more reps we can get, the better. And then the final point I would just, in terms of talent management, it is one where you see, Harrison talked about the coaching tree, but all of us should be looking, hey, who are those men and women with the potential? And the ones who need somebody to give them that vote of confidence on, hey, there is more, your future is bright. And don't sell yourself short. I did, when I enlisted in the Army, it was be all you could be was the motto. And it's one of the things I loved about the military. I thought it brought out the best in a diverse team. Everybody's got something to offer. And that's what coaching also, how do you help maximize everybody's potential? And so on that there, but when you see somebody who's got a little bit more, it's making sure they have those opportunities. They're getting the assignments they need so they can maximize their potential.
Great answer. And I'm going to take this opportunity to dig in a little bit more, because you forgot more about leadership than I'll ever know. So I'm not letting you get away that easy. But the 3 things I heard there was, I heard recognize talent in others, train appropriately so that the goals are just hard enough so everyone can super compensate and grow. And there was something else you said that really struck me, which was get others to know their own potential, for them to recognize that within themselves. So I'm going to ask Coach Kerns like how he's been developing, but I want to come back to you, General McGuire, give you some time to think about what were some strategies you used to get others to recognize their own potential and believe in themselves that they could actually attain these higher levels of leadership. So back over to you, Coach Kerns. You have a reputation of developing players and turning programs around from losing to winning. What secrets or nuggets you can give us that we can start employing immediately?
Well, I don't know if there's, any secrets. I think that I always tell our players, hey, there's this kind of myth, the secret of success. I don't think there is any secrets. I think we all know the answers. I think the hardest part is actually doing it. And so, one thing that I've been, fortunate enough is surround myself with great staff members, and we can talk about things that I look for in that later on. But at each program, when I've been able to take over these, we took over losing seasons. When we went to Presbyterian, it was 14 straight losing seasons. We came to Appalachian State, it was 8 straight losing seasons. And so I think the most critical part in, quote, turning it around, fortunately we've been able to do it quickly, is you have to help everyone in the program understand what loses first. Before you kind of go out there and, quote, win, you've got to really understand what loses. And guess what? Everyone knows the answers. So do you. And so we did an exercise at both programs early on with the players communicating what a loser acts like, talks like, works like, practices like, plays like. And they all knew the answers. Now, the answers were different at each place, but I wrote them up on the board. And, but the same characteristic traits, laziness, selfishness, all the things that we know, right? And so I left that up on the board for months. And I said, hey, you've got to understand that this is what loses. We can't just go out there and just take a magic pill and all of a sudden win. Winning's hard. And so I said, you're going to walk in here every day and you're going to look at this sign and you need to say, that's not me. That's not who we are. And at some point, when I feel like that it's not truly us, we'll erase it. You know what? At different places, or at the both places, I erased it at different times because the situations were different. However, I think that was very, very critical, helping everyone understood what loses before they just quote want to win. Because a lot of times people just assume and think winning's easy. Winning is really, really hard.
Coach, I knew you had a secret in there, and it was the way you got them to recognize that. And I love what you said. You got them to tell you what losing behavior is, right? So by the fact of them acknowledging it, they're taking like ownership of what not to do. And then you put it on the board, right, to just remind them of what those things were. And it was like the strategy of them probably being excited for that day that you erased it. And then it was like this big visual ceremony of like a coming of age. We are now winners. And that is a secret. Like that is something that we can all take away. Because you're right. Like General McGuire was saying, it's hard work. It's building up scar tissue and repetition of the mother of the skill. But it's like, how do you get people to do it? Is like the secret sauce. So great answer. I'm taking that forever. What an unbelievable tactic. And so now I want to spin it back to General McGuire. Hopefully that was enough time for you to give us something of how we can get our players, the people in our companies, to recognize their own capabilities and then believe in it.
Yeah, Harris, I look at it is one. We all bring unique skills to and so that start with why. But part of that is that discussion. And I just found on when you see success, when you see the traits that you want to implement, let them know. And it's one where I do believe each individual is unique. And so some folks require a little bit more tough love. Others are more responsive to a pat on the back. But how do you harness everybody on their strengths? And part of that is observant during the inventory of talent. But it is just pulling folks aside and letting them know, I believe in you. And that's where I do empowerment. I do believe most folks want to do well. I thought Coach's technique was excellent on what are the traits we don't want to see here. And so I was writing that one down as he was going also, because I think that's phenomenal. But I think most of us wake up and want to do well. And so it's one on I think as leaders, helping folks who may be lacking in confidence, what are their strengths and how do we maximize that? And how do we put them in a situation where they can take it to the next level? Because as they do, winning breeds its own second and third order effects, and it does change the culture. And so I guess, Eric, I wish I had more time because that was a convoluted answer, but I do think it comes back down also on the culture of the organization where everybody is committed to bring in his or her A game and maximizing their contribution in support of the team. And that is, I think key on and the other is just the criticality on personal relationships in this endeavor, because at the end of the day, peak organizations, it's about the relationships, and it's about not only folks holding themselves accountable, but the organization folks hold each other accountable. And so that's the one also where it's not only the subordinate, the superior, the coach, letting know, coaching and mentoring a subordinate, it's peers. And the best units I have been in is one where the peer leadership is very strong and folks are holding each other to a very high standard.
Yeah, peer leadership. And I thought that was kind of like the beauty of what Coach Kerns was saying, because the players themselves voiced it out loud, they could then hold each other accountable. And typically, like, I would be totally against putting negative behaviors up on the board because I felt like that would be reinforcing negative behavior. But Coach Kerns flipped me all in my head by making it this ceremonial transformation with the erasing of it, and this coming of age of being winners is such a wonderful thing. And so I love how you talk about that, General McGuire, but I also heard you say empower, right? So to get people to believe in their own ability, you got to let them do it, right? So that was the one thing I heard. And also, what was a common theme in your answer was personal relationships, spending one-on-one time. And what I was getting from your tone was having authentic quality time in those relationships, not just kind of like a check the box obligatory how you're doing, but really listening to the people among your team. Is that an accurate back brief?
Yeah, Harrison, phenomenal back brief, and I'm going to have you paraphrase me better because it sounds much better coming out of when you say it. But absolutely empowerment. But on that, the personal relationships, it is no kidding, not missing that opportunity. And it's one where any book you pick up will talk about performance reviews, etc. But it is the time at the end of practice. It's the time after, as you're waiting for soldiers to go from day to a night fire range, where you pull somebody aside and really get to know them. And we should never, as leaders, be missing that opportunity. And truly, at the end of the day, folks are going to see if you truly care, or it's just going through the motions. And so it's truly genuine. And it's got to be sincere, and it's got to be consistent. But absolutely, I think you are spot on.
Yeah, I love this because when we have these conversations, as much as it's entertaining for everyone on the call, I learn so much. So I always feel like I get so much better doing this. And I'm going to keep the spotlight on you a little bit longer here, General, and let Coach Kerns listen to this question. So, Coach, you can think about how you want to approach this. But we talk about personal relationships, right? Authentic relationships and investing. But, and this really is a but. You, General, your career took you to greater heights in leadership. And it's like, as you move up and all of a sudden, like, you're a deputy commanding general, I can imagine the way that you're interacting with people changes. Like, your leadership style probably changes somehow. The communication style has to change, I would imagine. Can you speak to that a little bit on how this changed, if at all, for you as your career progressed and you had higher ranks?
Yeah, well, Harrison, really, the previous discussion was a great segue on this one here, because it was one on the empowerment and the trust and trusting your team. And Coach talked about hiring a great staff. But the higher you go, well, you better trust the men and women working for you, because you do not have the ability to micromanage them 24/7. So it's setting clear expectations, articulating the purpose, but then letting them go out and do it. And so, one on empowerment and trusting, and then there's there'll always be follow up, and it's one where you'll have some members of the team where, well, you can give them a mission and you trust it will be done to an extremely high standards, and some other folks, because of their inexperience or just their temperament, is going to require some more follow up. But trust, and then what we call in the military of mission command, is critical. I would say the other, as you go up, is one, you need to be more deliberate, because words will take on a life of their own, and you're not there to necessarily correct the record, because you're not with at a smaller level. You're with your team all day, and as you go up, boy, that might be the only time they see you in a while. So be a little bit more deliberate. I would also say, especially when it is a stressful or bad news, how do you react to that one there? Because you don't, folks will overreact. And then the final on the communication, I think this applies at all times, but the importance of a positive attitude, because as you go up, boy, your a negative attitude can really just the amount of leaders you impact, it can have a devastating effect on any organization. And so a positive attitude, I believe, at every level is critical there. But it is one, and it's also in terms of the higher you go, you need to put a little bit more emphasis on written communication, because you cannot look everybody in the eye. So how do you get your message out? And then it's even one now on the importance of making all use of all forms of media, so you can make sure you've got a consistent message across the board.
Great one. So I hear deliberate word selection, being able to use multiple communication channels, right? And again, empowering your people. But what I was kind of taken away from that is you might be coaching, leading, mentoring, a group of, 30, 40, 150 people, right? That you're directly speaking to and managing. But then as you go up, you have this whole another level. So now you have to mentor maybe 2 people that are now leading, mentoring, advising the 150 below. So it's almost like you're having personal relationships and mentoring fewer people, but they have a bigger impact to all the people below. Is that kind of what you were saying, or am I off base here?
No, that's fair. And it's one, Harrison, just to the soldiers up on the, when I met my wife, she said, "Hey, how long are you staying in?" And I said, "Boy, I don't know, because I'm really enjoying this close interaction with soldiers. I don't know, the more you go, boy, the more distant it is." Well, I stayed in 34 years because I realized, to your point, hey, everybody needs coaching and teaching and mentoring. It's just the folks you were engaging are a little bit more senior out there, but it's still that team. And those men and women have their own teams that is spreading out. So your impact is that, but I think one of the key lessons is everyone needs mentorship. And I needed it as a general officer for my bosses. And I know as I was a brigade commander, I thoroughly enjoyed, I was blessed because I had 8 phenomenal lieutenant colonels working for me who were extremely knowledgeable and had 16 to 20 years under the belt also, but they needed mentorship. They needed to bounce ideas off. So everybody's looking for coaching as they go on through. So I thought you summed it up well.
Well, that's great advice, General. And so now we're going to pass the ball over here to Coach Kerns. And Coach, we would love to hear how your leadership and communication style has changed as you went from initially maybe coaching high school basketball and then getting into college basketball, being a position coach, associate head coach, and then being the head coach, but then doing it at multiple stops. How has that evolved for you?
Sure. I think that trying to get alignment is so critical to success. And so I think that it's healthy to have healthy discussions between your staff. I think it's also healthy for me as a quote head coach and leader for me to tell our team that I'm not going to be perfect, and I don't expect them to be perfect either. That these are the things that I do expect. Like, I don't have a lot of team rules. I've got standards, and guess what? They pick them. And I always tell them, if you guys can't get in a room and come up with some standards that we want to be about, that we've got no chance anyway. And so they come every year, they present them to me, and I approve them. So I think that you have a bunch of rules that people just abide by them. They don't believe in them. And so how do you get people to believe in them and get aligned? Trying to get the personalities of 13 players, 5 coaches, a trainer, a manager, whatever it may be, to get aligned with your vision, because that's the beauty of what we're all doing in coaching is it can be done many different ways. It's just what you believe in and what you want to teach. And so I think that's critical, not to mention it's not just the personalities and aligning the personalities of your players, your coaches, but their spouses, your players' parents, their coaches, their trainers. And so I think that I'm a big guy in communication. And, I think that we always kind of say we're a program of truth. And I always tell our players, sometimes the truth hurts, but as we spend a lot of time, we want to quote, lead the league in player relationships. And we do an exercise that I do want to share, because I think that any team, any organization is going to go through some adverse times. And guess what? That's okay. That's life. It's how you respond from those adverse times is when you're going to really kind of get and find out what your kind of team's about or made of. And so we pair everybody in our program up and we call it highlight, hero, heartache, and hope. And so you present to your teammates. So you spend a lot of time with that person that you're assigned with. And this is not just something that takes, like we make them spend a lot of time together and really have a lot of notes, maybe show pictures and things like that. And so you present to the team your teammates' highlights, their heartache, their hero, and their hope. And so we learn a lot about each other in that room to help us in the adverse moments and to help us become aligned as one. And so, I just think that when I first got to App State, I put a huge, I don't believe in just a bunch of signage, because I think our guys they're not going to really see anything. Mm-hmm. But I put a huge sign up in our locker room, and it says, "We don't become you, you become us." And then I put another one up that says, "Culture drives behaviors, behaviors drive results, results drive cultures." And it's a big circle. And, I just think that to get everybody aligned, you've got to have clear, precise vision and communication, and very direct communication. And, to get the alignment you want. And do we have disagreements? Absolutely. Do we have, perfect? No. But when we walk through that tunnel, when we walk out of that office, I do feel like we're aligned. And I think that's probably the most critical thing in creating that, quote, buy-in that is so critical.
So from that story, I hear alignment is critical. And the way you achieve alignment is very similar to what General McGuire was saying, where it's by creating bonds between the people in the organization, right? So there's clear values, and just a couple, they're on the wall. But if you get people to bond through specific exercises like the hero, highlight, hope, heartache exercise, once they become connected and that changes, it's easier for them to buy in to the signage on the wall.
Correct. Yeah.
That's awesome. And you said something else that was really impactful, and it kind of goes back to the prior question. You said, be humble, like show that you don't have all the answers and that you make mistakes as a coach. And as I think back to what General McGuire was saying, like as we get higher in our leadership, the deliberate word selection we use becomes more essential and more magnified. So let's let our hair down, me included here. And if you're comfortable sharing a humble moment, has there ever been a time where you chose the wrong words? They were taking not the way that you intended, and you were like, shoot, that deliberate communication, I wish I had that back. I would have said that different, and then we would have had a better outcome.
Is that for me?
Yeah, take it if you're ready.
You know, I can't think of an example where I've kind of, you know, sometimes after games you have some tough losses. I can't think of a specific example, right? But I know that maybe the next day I've thought, you know what, maybe I should have just kept it short. You know, maybe I didn't need to go on this kind of speech about, how everything matters and how leading up to this week, or whatever it may be, led to that quote defeat. I should have just kept it short and addressed it the next day. Certainly had those moments, but I really think there's, and when I speak at clinics and things, I always say this: there's two kind of coaches: humble and about to be humbled. And I can attest to that. And so I just think that, for me and the people I like to be around, I think that, being hungry and humble is a big thing. And I've certainly had some humbling moments. I know General McGuire talked about, Coach K. I coached against him this year. We coached against Duke on national television, and that was extremely humbling, and in many ways. But I think that if you really want the people that you're trying to get to buy into you, and what you're saying and what you're teaching, and to really buy into the ultimate thing, which is team, there's got to be a huge level of authenticity. And I think that I'm not afraid to stand in front of our team and admit when I make a mistake, because I ask them not to be perfect, and I let them know that I'm not perfect either.
Excellent. So, General McGuire, has there ever been a time where you wish you would have took that word back or that phrase back?
Harrison, absolutely. And one on coach's discussion on alignment, and it ties back into the staff. I'm just, as you go up the chain, or as your reputation build, I love that, the need to be humble and the need to check your ego there, but it's also the need to take some time for yourself. And it is one there on resting and making sure, when I say, hey, be deliberate, especially in stressful situations. But boy, if you are running yourself into the ground, your ability to be deliberate, to choose those words, can get challenging. So just a couple things of advice. There was a situation in Afghanistan where deployments, and looking at the great warriors up on the net, we would say, hey, a deployment, a year-long deployment to combat's a marathon, not a sprint. Well, my response was, yeah, at a world-class pace, which is a sub-6-minute mile. That's a sprint in my book. But at the end of some deployments, you start getting tired, and you start losing your edge. And it's one where talking about the power of positive leadership. Hey, when I was a battalion commander on my second deployment, took command in Iraq, redeployed them, took them to Afghanistan for a year. Boy, at the end of that one, I was losing my ability to be that. And it was great that I had trusted agents. And so I just, share with you all, who on your staff is going to walk in, who within your family, hopefully your wife, your best friend, but also an assistant coach, but can walk in and say, hey, you need to go get some sleep. Hey, your guidance was unclear. Hey, all this talking about being a positive presence, you just laid into so-and-so there. And I would just say, as you advance, sometimes, hey, folks won't give you all the feedback. And so ideally, because you've earned that reputation and folks are going to, trust you, they can provide that one, they're going to provide that. But if not, hey, designate somebody. But I'll forever be grateful when, my 2IC came in, closed the door, and said, I think you need to take a day, you need to go to bed early at night, because you are not practicing what you're preaching right now. And I will, Phil Chambers, I will forever be grateful for him, because he was absolutely right. And so I just share that vignette, and there's many other times, but when I go back and look at it, it was the times where I wasn't taking a little bit of time to make sure I was looking out for myself. And so I will just share this one also. the importance of, in the emergency, there's a reason why you put your mask on first. And so, on an aircraft, hey, put your mask on and then help others. I would just say, as coaches, make sure you're taking that time to rest, reflect, do the reading that Coach Kerns talked about. Take that time off to stay connected with your family and friends, because if not, you're going to burnout. And I think that can get back into coaches humble or about to be. Just take that time for your own well-being. Also, it's not a luxury. I think it's a fundamental aspect of success.
Yeah, that's a great point. In my book, The Everyday Coach, Matt Doherty, former head coach at Notre Dame and UNC, talks about being humbled in his moment of greatness, as a matter of fact, right? So here's a guy who's head basketball coach at UNC and his alma mater. And he talks about him wishing he took back some certain words where he left coaching scars. And I thought that was very powerful. And the story in the book is just fantastic. And it really has transformed his leadership. And it just goes back to what Coach Kerns was saying. It doesn't matter what level you're at. You're either humbled or about to be humbled. And that was such a powerful thing. And Coach Kerns, here, you put in the chat real quick something about speaking in sound bites. Do you want to just elaborate on that? And I get the irony about elaborating on sound bites, but just try your best anyway.
Well, I thought I was just trying to respond to it. Said, I'm wondering, there was a comment before that about I think some of the signs that I talked about. Said, I'm wondering how much time you spend unpacking why those things are so important and when you communicate those things. So that was in response to that. But I think as a coach and a leader, when you're really addressing young people, that speaking in sound bites is really important, because they're not going to retain everything you say in big, long quote speeches. That's what I was talking about earlier. I kind of, regret some of those because my message was probably lost. But I just think speaking in sound bites and then spread out your messaging. You can't go in there. The exercise I did on the wall, that was early on, but that wasn't my very first message. That was probably my first week on the job. The very first thing that I said to both programs when I addressed them as a team, I said, I'm your coach. You play here, so you're my players, and you're never going to feel anything other than that. And so I wanted them to always remember the very first thing that I told them as a new coach that had taken over, a period in time that had not been successful. Because so many people, when you take over, can feel like, oh, quote, I'm not his guy or whatever. And I just simply said, again, I coach here, you play here, you're my players, and you're never going to feel anything different. And so that was that message. 7 days later, I came back with the message of, let's talk about what a loser looks like. So I just think you got to spread out your messaging, and you got to really kind of speak in sound bites with this generation.
I love speaking in sound bites, and I think it could be a challenge to avoid cliches when you're speaking in sound bites. So how can we make our sound bites be original to Coach Kerns, to Harrison Bernstein, to General McGuire, right? And so I guess the best compliment would be if one of your original sound bites eventually became a cliche, because that would mean it's working, right? Fantastic. And Coach Kerns, I want to know this too. How deliberate are you in the installation of your messaging? For instance, did you go into the job at App State saying, this is going to be my first message, and then 7 days later, I'm going to say, or like give or take 8, 9, whenever it feels right, but my next message is going to be this exercise that we do on the board, and then I'm going to see how that goes, and then that's going to lead to this tertiary message. Did you have that kind of pre-scripted in a sense, or is this more of like go as it feels?
Yeah, Harrison, that's an excellent question. And I think that every situation's different. And I think that I had, quote, a plan down but that playbook sometimes doesn't always maybe go as planned. And so the thing that I did at both programs is I did a lot of listening. I know General McGuire talked about it earlier. I did a lot of listening. I called former players. I called people in the program. I called even some fans that maybe I didn't know. And I just said, hey, in your opinion, why don't you think it's worked here? Why in your opinion, you don't think this program has been successful? And so I did a lot of listening and did a lot of writing. Not that I said those people were right, but I was trying to find common themes in what they were saying. And so I think that based off of some of those conversations created the timing of those things and the timing of those activities to, but yes, there's quote a checklist of, hey, these are some of the things that we need to address, but not a certain timeline, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. And so we have just about 8 minutes left here, and I'm just so honored to see everybody who's on this call right now. Great friends and colleagues and supporters of Soldiers Sidelines that I haven't seen in a long time. You know, Adam Silva, so great to see you always. Like, I'm so happy you're here with us tonight. I know you have so much stuff going on. Greg Gadsden, brother, so great to see you. I'm glad you're here. Merle, you're always showing up, and just know we appreciate you so much. And Matt Lewis and Joe Ross and Manny and Matt Miko, guys, just thanks so much for taking the time to participate. And I see Dewey's here as well. And you guys are just really special to the program, and everybody is special on this call right now. But sometimes when I don't see you in a while, I get a little sentimental to see you on the webinar. And with that, let's open up to a couple questions here. And Greg Gadsden, you take the way. Your hand's raised already. The mic is yours, my friend.
Hey, well, thanks, Harrison, and thank you for hosting and bringing so much talent and experience to share with so many folks. Coach Kerns, I know I've never met you, but I'm walking away with a lot of wisdom, and I appreciate this. I just wanted to my comment is, I got teammates here like Bill Lynch and Rob Dickerson and Tim McGuire and Will Huff. What I wanted to say, because Tim is such a humble man, but Tim McGuire is the same man that he was 30 plus years ago. This Tim is incredibly smart. I mean, like brilliant, like 4.0 smart, talented, football, hardworking, but a superhuman. And I remember him as a freshman, and he didn't treat me like a freshman. He treated me like a person. And those are the things that we got to remember in leadership is really being authentic. I can tell you, Tim McGuire has been authentic for as long as I've known him. Got to serve with him in Afghanistan, and it's been an honor, and you just smile to see somebody like him touch so many people. So Tim, it's great seeing you, and thank you for sharing your wisdom.
Hey, Greg, how this coming from you? That means the world to me, and the feeling is 100% reciprocal, and you inspire me daily. So thank you, Greg. God bless you.
That's awesome. And if everybody who doesn't know, Greg Gadsden was the recipient of our Legacy of Leadership honoree in military leadership in our inaugural dinner. And man, if you want to get inspired and attack the day, just go visit our website and watch the highlight video of the Legacy of Leadership dinner. And Greg's speech there is just, oh my gosh, did he bring the room down? So boy, are we surrounded by some phenomenal leaders. Andrew Vargas, would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes, sir. First and foremost, thank you, Harrison. Thank you, McGuire, and thank you, Coach Kerns, for having me here. It's been a pleasure. So through this program, I've actually learned a lot from Division I coaches, and I've been able to have been on one-on-one with some of them. And essentially, what my first questions were, how could I move 6 inches to the right and become a head coach, run my own program? Well, fortunately, I just was hired as a head coach here in Orlando. So one of the problems coming in is I've done the open gyms, I've done all this stuff, meet the parents and stuff like that. I'm having a problem in terms of getting the parents of the players. It's early, but you can see some of the looks, some of the faces, getting the parents to really buy into what I'm trying to bring to the school. Only because their former coach was still there and just moved to coach the girls program. So is there a way, or is there some key or anything that you guys can give me in terms of trying to get them to shift focus to what's going in the future instead of looking behind?
Well, I'll take it. First of all, congratulations. And you're always welcome at our practices. You're always welcome at our workouts. You're always welcome up here in anything that we do. I think that, certainly every situation's different, right? You took over a situation that sounds like that the former coach may have been well liked, and now he's taken over, for the girls program, and you're trying to create some buy-in. Just understand it's going to take some time, okay? And just remember this saying: good days will add up. Okay, you're going to have some days like you're having right now where you feel like no one's listening, no one's buying in. Okay, keep believing in what you're doing, keep communicating open and honestly, keep spending time, as General McGuire talked about, and the time will buy in. And then also, just know that the good days will add up. Okay, I've had the same experiences at both places. Oh my goodness! Even though I took over, like these guys are not believing, they're not buying. And guess what? You might not reach all of them, and those people will eventually fall off the bus, and that's okay. They might quote transfer. You know what? That's okay. Addition by subtraction. But there's going to be a group of people that you are talking to right now that are going to eventually, you're going to feel it. And just know that those good days will add up. Keep believing in what you're doing. Keep spending time with them. Keep having good, open, and honest communication.
Great answer. And so as we come down to the final couple minutes here, we're going to end on some closing remarks. And General McGuire, I think the best closing remarks are, what is your opinion about the impact that the upcoming basketball coaching workshop that we're about to do on Fort Bragg this weekend, how important is that to our coaching community, our military community, and our civilian communities?
Yeah, Harrison, I can't overemphasize the significance. And Coach Kerns, I'd like to just echo my thanks for you for what you put out today, but also for running the coaching clinic on Saturday. And it's one here where, for those who aren't aware, there's 71 soldier coaches, some active duty, some veterans, but also military spouse or two, and I believe a Gold Star family member in the mix there. Boy, those men and women to be exposed, and to you and your fellow coaches there to get those skills and to go back and give out. And it was fun. Will Huff and I played football together at West Point. But what was really neat was, along with Greg, Will and I served together at Bragg, but our boys played basketball together. And they are better men today. Will's going to get to see his son, who's a second lieutenant at Fort Bragg this weekend. But they're better because of the coaches and the lessons they learned playing basketball at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And that wouldn't take place without the coaches out there. And so I'm just so grateful for Soldiers To Sidelines and what you're doing. And I think what is occurring at Bragg this weekend is going to be a pilot that can be replicated and should be replicated at other installations across our Army, because we need more coaches. But to all the soldier coaches out there, and Coach Vargas, congratulations. And I know your team as Coach Kerns said, hey, keep plugging away because the success is going to come. But for all the soldier coaches out there, boy, the skill set that you bring is so transferable. And our society, our nation needs it. And so my hat's off to you all for continuing to serve as a coach. And to Coach Kerns, thank you for not only what you're doing at App State with your players there, but your willingness to come on down and expose 71 coaches this weekend to all your insights. And I just think that's one here. It's going to have just a exponential impact on helping create great American citizens. So I'm very excited what's going to take place this weekend.
Thanks so much, General McGuire. And now we'll just pass the ball back over to Coach Kerns to send us out.
Well, Harrison, thank you for putting this webinar on. General McGuire, thank you for your thoughts. I've got a bunch of notes here myself from the things that you said. And once again, thank you all for being here. I think that I know I'm incredibly humbled to be coming to Fort Bragg this weekend and share and learn. I'm looking to also come and share, but I'm going to learn some things as well and experience some new things for the military, which I have the utmost respect for. And this is going to be an incredible experience for me personally. And so once again, I can't thank you all enough for all the hard work and sacrifice that you all do for our country. And we certainly should commend and honor each and everyone for every day for what you do. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Coach. And thanks for everyone for showing up tonight. And boy, I know I took away some beautiful nuggets in leadership and coaching that I'm going to implement immediately. Just such great stuff here. And I believe that all of us tonight on this call, we earned our whistle. We earned it. We got a little bit better. So I look forward to seeing you all at the next Coaching Legends and American Heroes webinar. And hopefully I get to see many of you on Saturday on Fort Bragg. Night, everyone.